Can you solve all these Class 10 Maths Chapter 4 Quadratic Equations questions?
Good job, 74 works well here.
6-5. Perfect. X4 is the correct choice. PV equal to NERT solve for R. Smart move. R equal to PV. NT is an accurate answer. 6 equal to. Correct response. X equal to 11 is the most accurate answer. All possible Y values. Bravo. Range is the answer. The equation 9 4x equal to 15. Exactly. Not quadratic makes sense. Square root of 16 is dash. Well done. 4 is the right choice. What form is f equal to? Excellent. Factored is a brilliant choice. What is another word for zeros? On track. Roots is the correct answer.
What is the square root of 196?
Smart pick. Plus 14 is the correct choice. Another name for the x-intercept? Sharp thinking. All of the above is the right choice. How do you find any x-intercept? Nice work. You chose substitute 0 for y and it is correct. A parabola is upside down when it is? Correct. Negative is the right answer. Where the parabola crosses the y-axis? Well picked. Y-intercept is the correct answer. What is the degree of a quadratic equation? Nicely done. 2 is a solid answer. What is a second-degree polynomial equation? You got it. Your choice quadratic equations is right.
What is the simplified form of?
You're right. 5 plus 1 3y is the correct answer. Which of the following is not a perfect square? Good thinking. 111 is the right answer. What is the other term for quadratic equations? You chose equation of degree 2, and it is correct. 2 is the highest degree for quadratic equations. Great thinking. True is the right choice. There is a formula to solve a quadratic equation. Solid response. True is a valid choice. What do we call the graph of a quadratic function?
Nice selection. Parabola is the correct and valid answer.
What effects does k have on the parent function? Right again. Vertical shifts is a valid answer. The discriminant is 10. How many solutions are there? Great job. Zo is the accurate answer. What is the formula to find the vertex of a parabola? Clear logic. Your choice x equal to Beedre's sound. The axis of symmetry line passes through which point? Well reasoned. Vertex is the correct choice. What is the name of the graph of a quadratic equation? Valid point. Parabola is true. When an object is dropped, the initial velocity is dash. Right choice. 0 is the best answer. The U-shaped graph of a quadratic function is called strong choice. Parabola is the right answer. If the discriminant is negative, then the quadratic has. Excellent choice. No real solutions is the right answer. Solve the following quadratic equation equal to 0.
You chose x equal to 2, x equal to 3, and it is correct.
If the discriminant is positive, then the solution will be... Nicely done. 2 real solutions is a solid answer. Given Lewis 1-2-5, the equation of the axis of symmetry is... Good job. X equal to 4 works well here. The quadratic equation, when solved, generates 2 answers. Bravo! True is the answer. What do we call the highest or lowest point of a quadratic? You got it? Your choice vertex is right. If the discriminant is greater than 0, it has how many roots? Correct response. 2 is the most accurate answer. If the discriminant is equal to 4, how many solutions are there? Smart move. 2 solutions is an accurate answer. What property would you use to solve the following? Equal to. Good thinking. Zero product property is the right answer. The line through the parabola, so that each side is a mirror image. Smart pick. Axis of symmetry is the correct choice. True or false if equal to 2x plus 54 is an example of a quadratic equation. Nice selection. False is the correct and valid answer. Say true or false, every quadratic equation has exactly 1 root. Strong choice. False is the right answer. A parabola has a vertex set. Where is the axis of symmetry? Correct. X equal to 3 is the right answer. What is the name of the point where the parabola crosses the y-axis? Well done. Y-intercept is the right choice. What method would you use to solve the equation y equal to? You're right. Zero product property is the correct answer. A function has a discriminant of 4. How many x-intercepts does it have? Excellent. 2 is a brilliant choice. When looking at a quadratic graph, the solution are always the dash. Well reasoned. X-intercept is the correct choice. What is another word that describes the zeros of a quadratic function? Right again. X-intercepts is a valid answer. Given the graph, determine a solution where y is at least 12 less than x. Sharp thinking is the right choice. True or false, when you graph a quadratic function, it will have a U shape. Great job. True is the accurate answer. If the sum of 2 numbers is 20 and its product is 64, find the numbers. Great thinking. 4 and 16 is the right choice. A function has a discriminant of 25 dash. How many solutions does it have? Exactly. 2 makes sense. In order to use the quadratic formula, the equation must be equal to dash. Perfect. Zo is the correct choice. What is the value of y when solving this system? 2x plus ay equal to 13, 2x plus 4y equal to 17. Excellent choice. 1 is the right answer. What is the nature of roots of a quadratic equation with a discriminant of 4? On track. Non-real is the correct answer. What is the equation of a line that passes through the points and or? Valid point. Y equal to 2 is true. According to exponent rules, when we divide the expressions, we dash the exponents. Right choice.
Subtract is the best answer.
A quadratic function has 0, 7, and 9. What are the linear factors of the function?
Nice work. You chose and it is correct. If the graph of a quadratic does not intercept the x-axis at any point, then it has... Well picked. No real solution is the correct answer. How can the square root of 44 be simplified in the context of the quadratic formula? Solid response. 2 squares a valid choice. The quadratic equation can be used to solve quadratic equations that cannot be factored. Clear logic. Your choice true is sound. Let's talk factoring. There were 3 methods. We always looked for a chief first. Factor 2x plus 6. You got it. Your choice I is right. If we are trying to find out when an object hits the ground, what should we put in for? Smart move. Zo is an accurate answer. Make sure that the equation is written in standard form before identifying the value of a b and c. Clear logic. Your choice true is sound. What is the nature of the roots of the quadratic equation whose discriminant is a perfect square? Well picked. Real rational unequal is the correct answer. If 3 plus 2i is one solution of a quadratic equation, then the other solution of this quadratic equation is... Sharp thinking. Go is the right choice. The product of 2 consecutive integers, n and n plus 1, is 42. What is the positive integer that satisfies the situation? Nice work. You chose 6, and it is correct. Choose the correct option. Correct, 42 is the right answer. The function on the graph is dash. Nice selection. Potivaves is the correct and valid answer. Find the solutions as an ordered pair. You're right is the correct answer. Use the graph to determine the solutions. Good job. 1 and 3 works well here. Review how long was the rocket in the air? You chose 6 seconds, and it is correct. What are the coordinates of the y-intercept? Bravo is the answer. What is the vertex for the following quadratic? Good thinking is the right answer. What is the sign of the value for this graph? Great thinking. Negative is the right choice. What is the axis of symmetry of the given function? Well reasoned. X equal to 1 is the correct choice. What is the value of the solution given in this table? Exactly 4 makes sense. In an exponential function, what does the represent? Great job. Y-intercept is the accurate answer. What is the equation for this parabola in factored form? Right again. Y equal to is a valid answer. Solve the quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. Excellent choice. 4. 2 is the right answer. How many solutions does the quadratic have? Excellent. Zo solutions is a brilliant choice. Given the graph, what must the sign of the discriminant be? Right choice. Positive is the best answer. What type of function is represented by the following table? On track. Linear is the correct answer. The vertex of the given quadratic function is at its minimum.
Well done. False is the right choice.
One of the zeros of this graph is 0.5. What is the other zero?
Smart pick. 4.5 is the correct choice.
If the graph shows price vs profit, what is the maximum profit?
Correct response. 12,500 is the most accurate answer.
Review. Approximately, what was the highest that the rocket flew?
Valid point. 9 feet is true.
Does this parabola have a minimum or maximum, and what is its value?
Solid response. Maximum 5 is a valid choice.
Dash for the function above. Is the discriminant positive, negative, or 0?
Strong choice. Negative is the right answer.
George expands his deck by adding x stiff to each side. The original deck was a 5x10. The new deck's area will be 250 FSQ. How much is x, the amount added to each side?
Perfect. X equal to 5 is the correct choice.
If each mark on the x-axis represents 1 second, when did the object reach the ground?
Nicely done. 5.5 seconds is a solid answer.
What is the name of the imaginary line that cuts a parabola in half and goes through the vertex?
Sharp thinking. Axis of symmetry is the right choice.
The number of mosquitoes at the beginning of the summer was 4,000. The population of mosquitoes is expected to grow at a rate of 25% a month. How many mosquitoes will there be after 4 months?
Nice work. You chose 9765 and it is correct.
If the graph shows prices profit, at which prices would you break even?
Nicely done. 10 and 60 is a solid answer.
When a basketball is shot, it forms an arc. When the basketball reaches its highest point, what is that point called?
Smart pick. Maximum value is the correct choice.
On a graph, the value of x at the point where the line crosses the x-axis, represented on B by the points and on A by the origin.
Valid point. X-intercepts is true.
Coretta is covering her locker door with crepe paper. The door is shaped like a rectangle and has an area of 192 square inches. Find the value of x that is reasonable for this situation.
Perfect. 9.73 inches is the correct choice.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format?
Excellent choice. Contact Narayan Changda on Facebook is the right answer.